a lot of fun. But I don't think we'll talk about Dracula too much today. We want to talk a little bit about concussions. We have a couple of very special guests with us today. And with us right now is Dr. Karen McAvoy, the National Concussion Management Expert, and Jeffrey Lauer, who is the Executive Director of the Brain Injury Alliance of Iowa Conference. Now, there's a mouthful, but I know you have been having a conference here, sure. Jeffrey, in Iowa. And
yeah.
Tell us a little about what's going on and why this is so important.
Sure. So we're having right now, yesterday and today, in Des Moines, we have our 24th annual conference. It's best practices for brain injury services and supports. The theme this year is Now What? After brain injury, the art and science of healing, hope, and help. We have a focus at the Brain Injury Alliance on supporting the more than 95,000 Iowans who have long-term disability from brain injury. We have programs and staff that respond to more than 25,000 calls and contacts each year just from that population, and a program of resource facilitation that folks can find on our website or an 800 number that is available so that they can help navigate both the medical or the physical reactions and outcomes of brain injury, all the way out to lifetime challenges, and so we're there for folks across the spectrum. In Iowa, since 2011 and before, and across the country, we've been more aware that concussion is brain injury. It's just the truth that a concussion, the signs, symptoms, and behaviors of concussion are a result of an injured brain. And our youth athletes, the youth brain, the adolescent brain, the young adult brain is a different kind of brain than the adult brain. It's developing in different ways, and we're learning. Newer recommendations are coming out to show us that we can't just ignore a concussion like we used to. Just, suck it up, you got your bell rung, get back in the game. We've learned in Iowa that we actually passed legislation in 2011 here in the state. The Brain Injury Alliance was key in that, to require youth athletes to be removed from play if there's a determination or anybody sees the signs, symptoms, and behaviors of brain injury. So when in doubt, we sit them out. Yep. And then they have to go through a clearance with a licensed healthcare practitioner before they come back in. And that's great. We've been able to prevent a lot of secondary injury with that. But we're also learning, and that's part of what Dr. McAvoy is here to share with us at our conference, we're learning that it's beyond just this return to play issue, that there are other components that have to fit together. The family has to know how to help the youth athlete or a youth who has concussion at home. The school athletic teams and activity teams have to know what to do. The school learning teams, the teachers, because kids go back where? They go back to class. And then finally there's a medical, there's a medical team that all those folks, if they're working together, we get better outcomes for our kids.
Well, let's learn more about that. Dr. Karen McAvoy, thank you for joining us this morning. So there's a project already in place called the REAP project in Colorado, and other states are trying to learn what this is all about. So first of all, what does REAP
stand for?
Yeah.
So REAP is the book that I wrote after we had a tragedy in Colorado in 2004. So I was a clinical psychologist working in a school district. We had a case of second impact syndrome. We had a young football player who ended up passing away from a concussion. And so I wrote the protocol REAP, which stands for Remove and Reduce, which is the components of removing them from any kind of possible second injury, educate about the different symptoms of concussion, adjust and accommodate their needs, and then eventually pace them back through the process of getting them back safely to sport. So I wrote the REAP protocol in 2009. It was adopted at Rocky Mountain Hospital for Children, where I went to open the Center for Concussion. So now I direct the Center for Concussion, and we see young athletes every day and work with school districts, work with their athletic trainers, work with parents, and of course do the medical treatment for these kids with concussion, and eventually safely get them back to school, back to play. The REAP protocol has been customized now in about 5 other states. It's in the process of being customized in about 4 or 5 other states. And so we're just trying to spread the word that this is the safest way for everybody to have eyes on these athletes, to be taking care of them, so that we don't have any more cases, hopefully, of some tragic and catastrophic events.
I know we've got some coaches that may be watching, but especially parents. What are some signs that parents should look for if somebody comes home and they say, man, I get hit in the head today? What would they look for?
Well, we talk about signs, which are the things that the parents will actually notice. So if they are very tired, or if they are repeating the same questions over and over, if they're vomiting, that kind of thing. And we compare those also and ask teachers and parents to look for symptoms, which are things that you would ask them. Do you have a headache? Do you feel dizzy? So some of the things you can't quite see. And we're asking parents and teachers and coaches to really be looking for both signs and symptoms, because sometimes these athletes are not exactly sure how they feel, so they're not quite reporting that, or if they don't want to be pulled from a game, they might not report
pumping,
it.
You're in a big game, you don't want to leave the field.
So we're training for both signs and symptoms, and anything that just doesn't look quite like your child, we're saying, and you know that they had some kind of a hit, not even a direct hit, but a jolt to the brain. So the body jolted and the brain kind of shook around inside. That would be enough to raise some attention that this might be a concussion.
But as you're saying, it's about getting the entire environment around them up to speed on what's going on. So it's not just the teachers, but it's also the coaches, it's also their friends, it's also their parents. Everybody needs to be on board.
Yes, and that's a good point. Having their teammates watch and report if anything is of concern. That's the identification. But once you have then confirmed that that's a concussion, it's about a 3-week process before this child is ready to go back to play. Usually, it's individualized.
So they can go back. It's not like you should be worried and say, no, they should never play again.
No, eventually, it's our goal to get them back, and 80 to 90% of kids with a concussion will hopefully resolve from their concussion in about 3 to 4 weeks. But during that time, we need to make sure we don't put them back to play too soon, because that's when the catastrophic things happen, and we need to adjust for them at school, at home, and give their brain some time to heal. So that's the management protocol, where everybody needs to know their part and be working together to support these athletes and these students for that period of time.
One of the big changes is that we used to think that, when I was younger, it was just, you get up, you shake it off. When you feel okay, you can go back to play.
Right.
We've learned through our study of warfighters in Afghanistan and Iraq, of which brain injury is the signature injury, a tremendous amount about how the brain heals or doesn't heal. And it turns out that the brain doesn't heal overnight. The brain takes time to heal, and if you have a second impact to a brain that's not fully healed, that's what Dr. McAvoy is talking about, that can lead to really significant and permanent consequences.
So as the Brain Injury Alliance of Iowa, are we trying to have more of the REAP project involved here in our state?
So the Brain Injury Alliance of Iowa has formed the Iowa Concussion Consortium, and it's in big words, big names. But we've got the Iowa High School Athletic Association on board.
Okay.
We've got School Administrators Association, the Iowa School Nurses Association. So we're bringing together the organizations that touch kids and have a connection with our children in both the educational world, the medical world, the family world, across the board, so that we're all talking about the same information, and we're agreeing that these are the protocols that will move forward, so that parents aren't confused and hearing from a coach, maybe a couple days,
right,
or from a medical professional, I think they'll probably be okay. Again, we're trying to get a standardized protocol.
Everyone needs to be on the same page. We have another event happening today, but if people want more information on what's happening with the Brain Injury Alliance here in Iowa, how can they do that? Would you suggest that's the best place to go?
It is. We are at www.biaia.org. And so going online, you can find out about today's conference, you can find out about our programs and services and how to get a hold of us, both for general information about brain injury, how to prevent brain injury, but then also how to respond if it's happened.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. This is a hot topic in media and what's happening around the world and our country. So thank you very much.